in words were needed, right? He admits this complexity of his poetry in Rabi Ben Ezra also, right? According to the learned critic, Browning was not unintelligible because he was proud, but unintelligible because he was humble. He was humble enough to think that what he knew was quite commonplace, right? And he was known even to men in the street. His own concepts were quite clear to him that he found nothing difficult or profound in them, right? But if we talk about his greatest defects, the greatest defects in Browning's poetry on obscurity or confusion are, we can say, mostly due to his extremely reflective mind and due to his dealing with psychological themes in most of his poems. While making psychological study, his thoughts are very swift that he cannot take care of his expressions, or rather, his expressions cannot cope with his thoughts, right? Sometimes there is an element of grotesqueness which cannot be found in any of the English poets. His mind, while making his soul studies, jumps from point to point in such an abrupt manner that many of the links in the expression are missing, right? And this thing leads to the confusion of understanding of the readers. His own seriousness dealing with certain themes is also sometimes the cause of his obscurity. It is difficult for other Victorian poets to follow him, but it does not mean that we leave behind his pure style of writing, his melody, his variety, his use of diction, his bent towards classical forms, his freshness, the variety he provides. We should not forget that, right? Browning's originality leads him into an irrational eccentricity. Perhaps it is his inability to select the essential and reject the unimportant. He fans out the whole heap of his thoughts, and sometimes he does not care to see them in order, right? We can say this is the charge of verbosity, talkative. He is considered as talkative, which has been leveled against him. This is a charge that leveled against him, that he is talkative. He is verbose in the sense that he gives expression to many thoughts when he would face, right? He is careful of thoughts but careless of expressions. Browning's obscurity also arises out of his diction. Sometimes he seems to be overconscious and even he seems proud of his fantastical way of thinking also. Sometimes his diction flung over our heads. Browning himself considered that it is difficult to understand. He also said this. He said, "This is myself. Take it or leave it," right? These are his words. He claimed to be more thoughtful than others. Although most of his poems are difficult, yet some of his later poems are full of directness and coherence. Friends, Browning is obscure because of his, we can say, peculiar style, which is vague, right, and which is careless. Browning puts his words into wrong places, and he creates confusion for nothing, and sometimes he leaves his words incomplete and rather his thoughts half expressed, right? He introduces a series of parentheses in the middle of sentences, and this very thing spoils the beauty of his expressions. He sometimes expresses profound thoughts through words more than they are capable. He often commits error of grammar, such as omission of articles, of pronouns, wrong pronunciation, right? And according to Louis Kazamian, Browning was too self-confident, too proud to give any proper care to the refinement of his style. His style is sometimes harsh, sometimes unmusical, sometimes obscure, sometimes unpoetic. But poetry should be judged by profundity of thoughts and by the originality of the poet, which are the dominant traits of the Victorian era. And Browning is the most spontaneous lyrical singer, right? This quality of his poetry makes him sometimes more obscure and sometimes difficult to understand. But the difficulty is only superficial. His poems are his best poems are those poems in which he sings of love, right? Friends, his style is often dreamy and mystical, but he's never meaningless. Sometimes, amidst his unformed and mystical language, we can say comes a happy expression, a sudden revealing of heaven, pleasant surprises of humor. Um, then we have tons of sentiments, touch of pathos also is there, right? When he writes, that is why Browning has been called unmusical, and he is judged by common rules. But we should remember one thing here, that there is always in it a sort of spiritual harmony which overrules the mere word sound and renders him one of the most musical of poets, right? Browning certainly we can say is a difficult poet, and if Dawson, he calls him the Carlyle of poetry. Various reasons are given for the obscurity and difficulty of his poetry, right? According to some critics, obscurity of Browning poetry is a piece of intellectual vanity indulged in more and more insolently as his years and fame increased. Friends, at one point, all his contemporaries agreed that he never talked cleverly or tried to talk cleverly, which is always the case with the man who is intellectually vain, right? It is psychological improbable that the poet made his poems complicated from mere pride of his past and contempt of his writers, right? If we talk about Browning, he always believed that a poet should try to put the infinite within the finite. It is not a kind of poetry to be read merely uh, to while to be read as a leisure way, right? Browning was a highly original genius, and we can say his poetry was entirely different from his contemporaries, right? So friends, this is all about today's lecture, and I hope you will like it. And if you like it, please hit the like button, share and subscribe my channel. Thanks a lot for watching.
Hello friends, welcome to English Literature Studies with Core Harpreet. Today we'll talk about Victorian period and why this period is named as Victorian period and why this period is so glorified. So let us start today's topic, Victorian period. Friends, when we talk about this period takes its name from Queen Victoria, who ruled between 1837 to 1901. And this period extends to the death of Queen Victoria in 1901. This era was marked by Britain's status as a powerful empire. It was characterized by industrialization, a class based society, and significant political and economic changes. Now, my question is, why is this era named after the name of Queen Victoria? Actually, Queen Victoria was the monarch of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland from 1837 to 1901, and also the Emperor of India from 1876 to 1901. Her reign lasted over 63 years. It was one of the longest reign in British history. So, this era is named after her due to her influence and due to the transformative events that occurred during her reign. It was an age of developments in literature and development in other fields. It was an age of industrialization, and this revolution played a crucial role in transforming Victorian society. Urbanization was a significant outcome of this. Melodrama and music halls were popular. Novels became widely accessible, reflecting this era's social dynamics and moral values. This period saw many more movements which emerged in response to the era's rapid social changes and intellectual controversies. In brief, It was an age of industrialization. It was an age of technological advancements, social changes, scientific discoveries, and religious debate also. The novel became the leading literary genre, and many more novels were written in this age. The most eminent poets like Tennyson, Browning, Arnold wrote poems that sometimes expressed a strong desire to connect with the past. When we talk about prose writers like Dickens, George Eliot wrote prose that explored the effects of industrialization. Now, second question I'm going to discuss is why. What is the reason why this period is so glorified? Actually, when sorry, when Queen Victoria came to power in 1837, the world had barely changed since Roman times. There was no invention, no reforms, no changes in society. For example, ports were still powered by wind, transportation was still based on horse driven carriages, etc. It was means there was no invention at all, no means of communication, but everything changed remarkably during the reign of Queen Victoria. There was industrial revolution, medical revolution, communication revolution, and communication revolution, and there was revolution in transportation. Right, there was upliftment of literacy rate around the world. There was scientific advancement that accelerated rapidly. Moreover, human biology, it became a science, not an art. These Victorians invented railway networks, trains, suspension bridges, and many more changes. But it has its own drawbacks. For example, poverty, poor working conditions, social inequality. Then we have child labor was common. Pollution from factories was an arising problem. The unemployed were forced to live in workhouses. It was a period of sexual repression. It was a time of extreme social inequality. The working class or labor class was not happy. They were not able to cope with their hardships. So this is about Victorian age in brief. I hope you will like my content, and if you like it and if you share it, please don't forget to subscribe my channel, and I hope you will like it, and if you like it, please hit the like button, share and subscribe my channel.
Hello friends, welcome to English Literature Studies with Gaur Harpreet. Today's topic is about Robert Frost. Robert Frost as a modern poet. So let us start today's topic. Frost is one of the representative poets of the 20th century of America, called as the Voice of America. Robert Frost is a prominent American poet. He is regarded as the greatest of the modern poets of America because, like other modern poets, he wrote his poems like modernists. But unlike modernists, he also kept some of the traditional aspects of poetry. He is a regional poet who talks or portrays the rustic life and about the people of New England. But his poetic vision is not limited. He encompasses the whole humanity. Most of his poems deal with persons who are suffering from the evils of modern life as loneliness and frustration. His pastoral poetry is not an escape from reality, but it is an advantage to study man in relation to nature. His choice of rural settings and his use of regional dialects are modernist elements that set him apart. He is renowned for his realistic depictions of rural life. In his poetry, there is clarity, there is simplicity in style, there is dramatic quality, lyrical quality, and metaphysical elements are also present in his poetry. English critics like Gibson, Thomas, Robert Graves have accorded high praise to Frost as a master American poet. Frost was not absolutely the product of modern movement in poetry. Though his meter are varied, they appear to be orthodox as he is traditionalist as well as experimentalist. As a traditionalist, he has made use of pastoral conventions and has been indebted into pastoral poets like Theocritus and Horace. He has also been indebted to some of the lyricists like the Metaphysicals. He is a traditionalist also in his attitude to the countryside and depicting the simple line of New Englanders and the people of New Hemisphere. But this should not mean that he is only slavish traditionalist in line with the old pastoral poets and nature poets, not only in subject matter but also in his styles. His poems are original in simplicity and honesty. He has learned to recognize the facts, but he uses the facts of life in such a way that facts became a metaphor and a symbol. In his style, Frost goes from seen to unseen. As an artist, he turns a phrase or a thought inside out or upside down to get a freshness of vision. Sometimes his phrase suggests those truths which are universal in application. Frost is not only a pastoral poet, but he is also a modern poet, and some of his poems show a terrible accountability in life in a new way. In his poem Mending Walls, he crosses man made barriers and extends his hand to all. He has a metaphysical bent, a symbolic bent, and a suggestive bent, which assures deeper meaning to his otherwise simple poems. His famous poem, The Gift Outright, it became a national poem for the largest American audience. We can sum up the place of Frost not as a terrifying poet, but as a poet of modern America, wedded to a new pastoral technique and a poet of honesty, a poet of integrity, who could show to the world more than Wordsworth the simple pleasure and pains of New England years. So, friends, this is all about today's topic, that is Robert Frost as a modern poet. And I hope you will like my content as you always like it. And please don't forget to comment. And if you're sharing my notes, friends, through analytics, I have seen that you're sharing, there is a lot of sharing regarding it. So, please don't forget to subscribe, at least subscribe my channel. So I hope you will do my needful, and if you like the content, please like the hit button, share, and if you're new on my channel, you can subscribe my channel and don't forget to hit the bell button so that you can get notifications on my upcoming videos. And thanks a lot for watching. Hello friends, welcome to English Literature Studies with Core Harpreet. Today's topic is about romantic age, its features, romantic authors, and romanticism in literature. So let us start today's topic. Friends, when we talk about romantic period, this romantic period encompassed everything from painting and architecture to music and art. It encompassed all these things while embracing the struggles of freedom and equality. It was a time of reaction against the Industrial Revolution. It was a time of reaction against Enlightenment. This period began roughly around 1798 and lasted until 1837. When we say it was a time of friction against industrial revolution, it means it was a period of transition to new manufacturing processes like machines and factories. And how it is a time of friction against enlightenment means there were dramatic revolutions in science, philosophy, and politics, etc. This romantic period affected literature, art, music, and many more mediums, while the terms surfaced in the late 1700s. It really took flight between 1800 and 1840. The Romantic movement was a deliberate revolt against the literary principles of the Age of Reason. Just as we know Dryden and Pope rejected this and followed classical principles, similarly Wordsworth and his followers rejected the new classical principles and they were in favor of romantic ideas. Lyrical ballads, all we know, is a monumental document of this movement which officially announces the beginning of romantic movement. Now let us talk about its features. Romanticism stresses the importance of the individual, the subjective, the irrational, the imaginative, the personal, the spontaneous, the emotional, the visionary, and the transcendental. It includes subjectivity and an emphasis on individualism. It includes spontaneity, that is spontaneous overflow of emotions. Romanticism means freedom from rules. In it, imagination is superior to reason. It means love for nature and worship of nature. It includes its fascination with the past, especially with the myths and mysticism of the Middle Ages. Romanticism talks about the purity of childhood. It is about the celebration of the individual, right? And now, romantic authors are William Wordsworth, William Blake, John Keats, S.T. Coleridge, P.B. Shelley, Mary Shelley, Bronte sisters. And if you want to know more about these romantic poets in detail, you can visit my channel, that is English Literature Studies with Kaur Harpit. You will get notes on this romantic age, romanticism, detailed notes about each and every romantic poet and other aspects of William Wordsworth, William Blake, John Keats as a representative poets. Many more topics are available. It will be very beneficial for you. In the last, I would like to discuss romanticism in literature. There are different phases of romanticism in literature. The second one from 1805 to 1830s. This phase includes Sir Walter Scott, John Keats, Lord Byron, and P.B. Shelley. And these writers paved the way for the iconic female writers like Mary Shelley and Bronte sisters. And this very movement opened the doors for the supernatural to make its way into romanticism. So, friends, if you like my content and if you share it, then don't forget to subscribe the channel, because most of you are watching my channel and sharing my notes without subscribing it. So don't forget to subscribe it. Thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.
Hello friends, welcome to English Literature Studies with Kaur Harpreet. Today's topic is about poetry, and today's video is going to be very interesting because you will get a lot of information regarding poetry, poetic devices, then poetic language, forms of poetry. Each and everything will be discussed in a single video. So let us start. Firstly, I will discuss what is poetry. Poetry is a type of literature that changes a thought, it tells a story, or describes a scene in a lyrical way. It is closely related to musical traditions. The earliest poetry exists in the form of hymns. Geoffrey Chaucer is known as the father of English poetry. Kamala Das is known as mother of English poetry in India. Talking about Geoffrey Chaucer, he was the outstanding English poet. His work, The Canterbury Tales, it ranks as one of the greatest poetic works in English, right? And poetry is a type of literature that uses the sounds, that uses the rhythm and meanings of words to describe it in imaginative way. Now, what are the elements of poetry? Rhythm, then alliteration, onomatopoeia, rhyme scheme, all these I will discuss today, and along with this, I will discuss what are the forms of poetry. So, let us start with that part. So, let us start with elements of poetry, and these are elements of poetry I'm going to discuss. First of all, I would like to discuss lines and stanzas. To understand a line or a stanza, so you see there is a poem in front of you with title Daffodils. To understand what a line and stanza is, you don't have to read this poem. Firstly, we will try to understand what a stanza is. A stanza is like a paragraph. So when you are reading a book or a newspaper, ideas are clumped together in paragraphs. There are groups of ideas together with multiple lines and they are separated by a space. So there are two stanzas on the screen. A stanza is a group of lines, usually about an idea or thought, and it is separated from another stanza by a space. So you can see this poem has multiple stanzas, but I have taken only two stanzas so that it will be easy for you to understand the difference. Line is just one
just straight group of words. If we take example from this poem Daffodils, there are 6 lines in each stanza, right? And if we talk about stanzas, there are 2 stanzas, and in each stanza there are 6 lines. So I hope this is clear to all of you. And after that, I would like to discuss another elements of poetry. First is refrain. A refrain is a line or group of lines that is repeated at regular intervals in a poem. It reminds reader of a key idea, often repeated at the end of each stanza. Now, this is an example of repetition. This poem that is on screen, this is an example of repetition. What is repetition? Repetition means to repeat a word, to repeat a phrase or a line. It has rhythm to it, paired together with rhyme. Repetition can also help to emphasize an idea the poet wants you to really concentrate on. And when any poem repeats a phrase or a line or a word, it lets you know this is really important. Now, next is elements of poetry. We have sound devices, right, like rhythm, meter, and feet. Rhythm is a beat created by stressed and unstressed syllables in words. Meter is a pattern of rhythm, and feet is unit of stressed and unstressed syllables, and meters is always measured in feet. Rhyme is the repetition of the vowel and consonant sounds at the end of words. For example, tin and pin, hand and sand. So there is repetition. Now next is, what is rhyme scheme? When rhymes follow a particular pattern, for example, here on screen you can see there are 4 lines. How did the little crocodile improve his shining tail and pour the waters of the Nile on every golden scale? So there is rhyme scheme A B A B. And if you want to know more about rhyme scheme, and meter, stressed syllables, unstressed syllables, then I have already discussed. You can watch my previous videos. You will definitely find the answer. Next, we have alliteration. Alliteration, it is the repetition of consonant sounds in the beginning of words, as you can see in example slippery and slope. It is the repetition of consonant sound in the beginning. Next is onomatopoeia. It is the use of words that imitate sounds. For example, crackle, splash, and patter. Now let us talk about poetic language. Here I will discuss denotation and connotation. Denotation is the literal or dictionary meaning of a word that is very simple to understand. Connotation, it consists of the ideas and feelings that a word brings to mind. For example, proud, confident, and arrogant. These are the ideas or the feelings that a word brings to our mind, because these belongs to a same category or same meaning. Imagery. Imagery is a description that appeals to the 5 senses of a poet, and through this, poet is able to convey his feelings. Under poetic language, next we have figurative language, a language that is not meant to be taken literally. And if we talk about its types are simile, which is a comparison of two things using the words like or as. Metaphor, which is a comparison of two things using the word is and are. Alliteration, it is a phrase that starts with the same sound. Personification, give an inanimate object human characteristics. Idiom, a phrase with deeper meaning than the literal understanding. Hyperbole, an extremely exaggerated meaning. And these are already discussed in detail, so you can refer to my previous videos if you are interested. Next is very important, that is forms of poetry. And under forms of poetry, I would like to discuss firstly narrative. What is a narrative? It tells a story in verse. It includes setting, characters, plot, tone, and mood. Some forms of narrative poetry are ballads, epics. It is a longer form of poetry that tells an entire story
with the beginning and middle and an end. This is the narrative. Second is haiku. It is three-line Japanese form. The first and third line each have 5 syllables and the second line has 7 syllables. And this form of poetry emphasizes simplicity, intensity and directions of expression. Third is free verse. It has no regular meter, rhyme, fixed line, length or specific stanza pattern and it is very clear from its name. It is an open form of poetry, so there is no set number of lines expected in a free verse poem. Next is lyric. It expresses the thoughts and feelings of a single speaker, often in musical words. It refers to a short poem that expresses the speaker's personal emotions and feelings. Ballad. A poem that tells stories. It often deals with romance or adventure. A ballad tends to be narrative poem that tells story as opposed to lyric poems which emphasize the emotions of the speaker. Dialogue is an important element of a ballad. Concrete. It is a form of poetry in which the poet's intent is conveyed by the graphic pattern of letters, words, or symbols rather than by the conventional arrangement of words. Limerick. It is a humorous, rhyming 5 line poems with a specific rhythmic pattern and rhyme scheme. And last is sonnet, one of one of the most famous forms of poetry. It is associated with particular themes. For centuries, poets have used the frame of the sonnet to explore the complicated human experience of romantic love. Friends, this is all about today's topic, and I hope everything is clear to all of you now. And if you are new on my channel, you can subscribe to my channel, that is English Literature Studies with Core Harpreet. And don't forget to hit the bell button so that you can get notifications on my upcoming videos. Thanks a lot for watching. Hello friends, welcome to ELS English Literature Studies with Core Harpreet. Today I will discuss second part of Renaissance, means I will discuss its features, its causes, its impacts and its implications in brief. If you are interested, then let us continue the topic. And if you want to know about more about Renaissance, that is reawakening and rebirth, I have discussed it in detail in my previous video. I will give link in the description box. If you're interested, you can go and check my playlist and go and check my other videos. You will get more and more notes on that. So let us start today's topic, that is features of Renaissance. Friends, there I will discuss 4 features of Renaissance. First is optimism, second is secularism, third is individualism, and fourth is humanism. Well, we will discuss in brief all these. What we mean by optimism. Optimism means man develop the confidence that he can make his life better. That is optimism. Well, that is optimistic approach towards life, right? Second is secularism. Secularism means he was secular, he was free. Everyone was free to gain knowledge of literature. They were not free to gain knowledge of literature, right? They were not born to holy books. They were free to gain knowledge of literature. They were free to gain knowledge of art. Music also developed. I will discuss it later on. Right now I'm just discussing about its features. Next is individualism. Individualism, it encourages the people to relate themselves to society. Otherwise, individualism has no identity. That now they did not have to accept the terms of church. They were secular, they were free, they were known as an individual. Last feature is humanism. Humanism is very important feature. It projected the man as a center to aims of thought towards civilization. It means man is the measure of all things, right? These are the 4 features. Now what are the causes of Renaissance? First cause is there was decline of feudalism. Next, capturing of Constantinople can also be included as a main cause of beginning of Renaissance. Then growth of trade, growth of new cities gave rise to Renaissance period.
Even merchants showed their desire to learn art and architecture, literature. Along with merchant class, there was royal patronage, who was that class was also interested in art and literature. As we know, everything or every change leaves its impact on the society. In the same manner, Renaissance also has its own impacts on the life of the people. First of all, art and architecture developed, then music also developed, the new aspects of maths also originated in this period. In the last, let us talk about implications of Renaissance. Renaissance means death of medievalism and Scotism, which have long been keeping human thought in bondage, right? It implied a greater perception of beauty and polish in the Greek and later scholars, and this beauty was incorporated by English writers later on. This Renaissance signalized a revolt against spiritual authority, that is, authority of Pope. It also marked a change from theocentric to homocentric, that is, conception of the universe. The human values were recognized as permanent values. Human life, human pursuits, and human body came to be glorified. So friends, this is all about today's video. I hope you will like my content, and if you like it, please don't forget to hit the like button, share and subscribe my channel. And if you're new on my channel, so don't forget to hit the bell button so that you can get notifications for my upcoming videos. Thanks a lot for watching.